Hello and welcome, my name is Sarah and I create mod tutorials for The Sims 4. In today's video we're gonna go over instances and tuning ID because I've been getting quite a few questions about this. I did have an old video called Override versus not Override, basically the same thing. But I feel like that video might be a bit outdated. So let's just go over it and let's look at how to actually change your instances, which are the same as tuning IDs for your files. And also we're going to talk about how to create something new and how to do an override. Now, also, if you prefer written content over video content, then make sure to check out my website, xosdr.com, where you can find the written content for this video. Also, there will be a link in the description down below. So in front of me I have opened the TDESC builder and I've just opened a random file from EA. Now the first thing you will notice right away is that the TDESC builder will tell you if you are creating an override. And as we can see, it will say over here, it says EA override. Now you can hover over this and it will give you a little bit of information about the EA override bit. Now the important thing to know is that if you are overriding, you are changing EA's tuning and changing the way their tuning file works. Now let's say, for example, you love the science baby interaction from the game, but you think the $1,200 that we see over here is too cheap, you know, to go and have a science baby as a solo parent in this case. So the idea now is that we want to actually override EA's tuning file, and we don't just want to like create a new interaction for doing a science baby. So we want to change things inside of EA's tuning and keeping the original interaction. Now that is why we would want to create an override. So with the EA override here, we could just say, let's change the price. So now let's make it 5,000 simoleons. So now with this example, if we would save it and put it in the game, the interaction will stay the same as how EA's one was, but now it will cost 5,000 simoleons to have a science baby instead of the 1,200. So that is why you might want to create an override. Now, if I want to say I want to create something similar to this science baby interaction, but I don't want to change the science baby interaction that is originally in the game, then we want to create something new. Now to do this, we need to make sure to give this interaction a unique instance and tuning ID. Now to give this a unique tuning ID, we will click on the document properties over here, and then we can just type in whatever we want for the instance name. Now always start with your creator name. So in this case, mine is xosdr. Then I'm just going to double dot it. We could also use an underscore, but I'm going to go for that one. Then I like to use mod name, so the name of the mod. So I cannot type anymore. I'm just gonna call it mod name, and then whatever it is. So this is the science baby interaction, and as you can see while we're typing, actually the instance ID over here changes. Science baby, and this is the instance ID. It's kind of confusing actually that it's called the instance ID, because this is actually the tuning ID and then this is the instance. So now as you can see, the name will be changed over here as well. It's now xosdr, mod name, science baby, and all of that. And then over here it has changed as well, and then give the unique tuning ID. Now let's actually look at it inside of the Sims 4 Studio, which is my preferred way anyways. So I have opened the same EA file, which is the science baby computer one that we looked at before, and now it will look like this over here. So to change the instance, we will have to do that in the data section over here. So we have the instance, which are these numbers over here, and then the tuning ID, which are those over there. Then this is the name, so the name of the file, which can also be found over here. Yeah, now if we would want to override this, then we just leave the data alone. We don't touch anything in there. Now let's say we want to make this 5,000 simoleons again. We just change it to 5,000 and that is done. Super simple. We would save this, put this in our game. And now to have a science baby as a solo parent, the interaction on the computer will be 5,000 simoleons. Now, if we want to create something new, there are two different ways we could do this. We could go into name and then start with our name, our creator name, so xosdr in this case. Then for the Sims 4 Studios, it is always best to go with the double dots. And as you can see, this tuning ID instantly changed. And that is because of the double dots. Now, if I would go with an underscore and then start typing anything, the tuning ID doesn't change. But now if I would do the double dots and then write something, as you can see, the tuning ID instantly changed. And so did the instance, by the way. The tuning ID and instance are connected. The instance is the hex of the tuning ID, and the tuning ID is the decimal of the instance. We will go over that in a minute once I grab the hash generator. But this is just an easy way to give your file a unique tuning ID. Now, I mentioned the hash generator earlier, and to get this is we go into tools and then click on the hash generator. Now, what is the hash generator? The hash generator can help us create a unique tuning ID. So inside the hash text, we will click on text. All the other ones we cannot click on. But inside the hash text, we will click on text. Then we will start off with our creator name. Now in this case, we could go with the underscore and things will change if you want to do. But still, I like to use just the double dots because, I don't know, that's just the style I've been going for. And I have this weird OCD thing with perfectionism, so everything needs to look the same. Anyways, let's go. Creator name. Very important, creator name. Now, one thing I do quickly want to mention is that it is important to create a kind of like file naming structure, because if you have hundreds of files in here, which happens very quickly, believe me, then things can become quite difficult to look at and might become confusing. Like, what file am I looking for? I need to edit a file because something has happened and a patch came out and now I need to update this certain file and I cannot find it because I didn't name it properly. We've all been there, and that's why I always say it is so important to give every single file a unique name and a recognizable name. So it's going to be easier for you in the future to do like patch updates and all of that. So that is why it's important to get a file structure. Now, let's just have a look at how I like to name my things, because I don't know, this is just the file naming structure that I've been using. So always start with your creator name, because then you are 100% sure that no other mod creator is using this tuning ID. So start with your own creator name, then double dot it or an underscore, whatever you want to do, or nothing, that's also possible, but I like to make sure that my files are readable. Anyways, then I always start with the mod name, so let me just name it like that, mod name. Then I like to go for an underscore and then write down the type of file this is. So with that, I mean, kind of like what says over here, it says interaction. So I could go for interaction, but I normally just go for SI when it's a super interaction. But in this case, I'm just gonna call it interaction. And then I'm going for another underscore. And then I write down the part of the mod this file falls into. So let's say for the Road to Wealth mod, I have quite a few parts in that mod. I have activities, I have things that have to do with loans and being in debt, and then investments. So they're all different categories or parts inside of my mod. So that's why I like to go for a naming part of like the part of the mod. So I'm just gonna name it part name part of the mod. So name part mod, I don't know. I kind of hope that makes sense. Then after I wrote down the name of the part of the mod, I will write down just the name of this interaction. Actually, that's just it. So I kind of hope that makes sense. Now let me grab another example of how I would name things. So let's go with RTW, which stands for the Road to Wealth mod. Then let's say SI super interaction, and then I would say let's go with activities. So activities is then a part of the mod, and then I would go with what this tuning file is all about. So let's go with cooking. So now in this example, it would say xosdr, my creator name. So then we have the mod name, which is RTW. Then we have the type, which is a super interaction. Then we get the part of the mod. So this super interaction falls under the activities part. And then the name of what kind of super interaction this is. So this is for cooking. So in my Road to Wealth mod, I have different kinds of super interactions for the activities, and then cooking is one. And then for another interaction, I would say nectar, which is also one, and so forth. So every single file will have its very unique tuning ID. So I hope I haven't lost you. I hope this makes sense. If this still seems a bit too complex, then definitely check out my blog post in the link in the description down below. So next, once we have created our text, we would copy the FNV64, which can be used in most of the tuning files. So the FNV64 is just the 64-bit tuning. Now, if we would be creating text, we would always go for the FNV32, and same goes for anything really inside of CAS, like that's visible in Create a Sim. So aspirations, traits, likes and dislikes, anything that is visible in CAS will always have the FNV32, so 32-bit. Now, let's copy the FNV64, and then what we would do with that is we will place it in instance. So we will just go and say paste, and now it is placed. It doesn't always automatically update the tuning ID. So how we would do that is to go back inside of the instance, and then we click on decimal over here, and then we take these numbers over here and paste those in there. Now we also have to make sure to go back in the XML and change those behind the word S. So just click on that and then paste it and make sure it is the correct decimal that comes with the instance. Now, if I would have more files in here, let me just grab one. So I've grabbed the trade lifestyle, which actually comes with two files. So a tuning file and then a sim data. So these are always connected, as you can see over here. If we would overwrite this, now we could see that the instance has the same numbers and letters as the sim data, because they are connected and they always need to stay the same. So let's look at this trait. Now I'm just gonna go, and instead of SI, I'm gonna say trait, because this is a trait. So we go tuning type trait. I'm just going to leave everything as it says over here, but I've changed the SI to traits, and then I'm going to copy the 64 and place it in here in instance. And now if we go down over here, you can see this one has updated automatically over here. So we got to make sure to also go into the sim data and change that one as well. Now, the thing is that if we, I don't know why, but in the Sims 4 Studio, if you click on another file, then the tuning ID will automatically update. However, you still need to go into XML and change it behind here. So let me do that. So now we have created a very unique trait, which is actually still works exactly the same as the lifestyle outdoorsy trait. Now I did say before that traits have 32-bit, but this is a lifestyle trait which isn't visible in CAS, so we can use 64 bits. Now, another thing I do want to mention, I want to go over, is that if we, let's stick with traits. Now, if we would use this method that I showed before, where we type in our creator name and then do the double dots, and then things will automatically change up here. So let's say trait, lifestyle, because it's a lifestyle trait, falls under the lifestyle category of the mod. And then we, I'm just going to continue saying outdoorsy. These numbers changed automatically. Now, if we would change this to a trait that will be visible inside of CAS, we would change it to a personality trait. But now the issue is that this trait will not show up. And that is because the way we type the name in here is automatically set as a 64-bit. So now we gotta change this actually to a 32-bit. So what we do is we use the hash generator again. We paste the text, and then we're taking the 32 bits instead of the 64. And now I'm going to paste that in here. For now, I'm taking the name over here. Make sure to paste that over there so it has the same name. Then I'm taking the instance and paste it in the instance type so they are exactly the same instance. And then all that's left to do is take the tuning ID and place it in here. So now we have changed this to a 32-bit instance, but be careful, because if you would rename this to, let's say I actually just want to call it outdoor instead of outdoorsy, it will automatically change back to a 64-bit. So you have to redo and change this back into a 32-bit. So that is the only downside to using these double dots, is because it will always automatically change when you are changing the name, and it will always go with a 64. So if you're creating something that needs to have a 32, you just gotta be careful with changing the name in this way. So that was it for creating new instances and new tuning IDs, and also overriding the current in-game files. So if you have any questions, then feel free to ask those questions in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Sims 4 content, and I'll see you in the next video.